I'm Neena from Agnisys. I would like to welcome Gary C2 and Teja Panchagnula from Analog Inference, users of our iDesign spec products. I would also like to welcome EDA industry expert Tom Anderson, who will talk with Gary and Teja about their experience working with Agnisys. Over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Nita, and Gary and Teja, thanks so much for joining me today. I'd like to maybe start off just by talking a little bit about Analog Inference. I don't know that much about the company, so what your roles are there, and a little bit about the sort of chips you design and the products you design for those chips as well.
Yeah, so Analog Inference, we're a startup company, about a year and a half old now, and we're working, basically working on a chip that uses analog and digital to be an inference chip for the AI chip space.
Okay.
And my role there is I'm like the digital design lead. And Teja, you can chime in.
So I handle the digital design verification effort here. So I'm involved in different aspects of DB, pretty much from the start to completion. So part of it includes setting up the verification flows, planning for different levels of test bench, block, cluster level, or higher level of test benches. Coverage analysis probably at some time near future, etc.
Great, nice to have both design and verification represented here. Now, as I understand it, you're currently users of iDesign spec, which mostly focuses on registers. So I'm kind of curious, what are the complexity of the registers in your design? What are the challenges in designing and verifying those? Then maybe we can explore a little bit how Agnisys has been able to help with that. First of all, outline the challenges. What are your issues? What do you face on a daily basis?
So in terms, yeah, Gary, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So in terms of the verification challenges itself, I think most of the AI hardware architectures that we have there are pretty much modular, right? So we do have the usual challenges that come along in such architectures. So the complexity of the DUT, it keeps increasing as we keep going higher up from the block level. So the end-to-end checking is always been a challenge. So that's one of the big challenges that we have. I think any verification that's targeting these AI applications architecture is going to face. And the other one that we have is that's mostly, I think, typical to any of the AI, space hardware. We have numerous parameters to deal with, right, for the different operations that are part of any AI algorithm. So the state space is pretty, to verify is immense. So it's always a challenge to constrain just, the right extent, especially you have so many parameters for the different operations. So those, I think, are the biggest challenges, at least that I see when it comes to verifying, from a verification perspective, I think those are the biggest challenges.
So
yeah, I'd say from the design side, I mean, all we're really looking for is some kind of tool that helps us automate how we can basically RTL from basically a register specification, and that's where iDesign spec really fit what we're looking for. We weren't looking for anything that iDesign supports a lot of features in terms of all the different type of registers. We just try to keep it simple using the basic type of registers, read, write, read only, write only, maybe write only clear. And we just try to, use those basic types of registers. So, yeah, I mean, most companies I worked for in the past, I mean, they had their own in-house tools to generate RTLs from a register specification. And since we're a startup, of course, we didn't have such a tool, to help us do that. So I kind of scanned like what kind of tools are available out there, and And, basically iDesign Spec seemed like the best tool available that met our needs. They have an established customer base, and that makes it a low risk for us, knowing that the tool's been used by other companies and that have working silicon, and also is one of their core products. So we're pretty comfortable that we're going to get very good support from them because it is their core product. It's not like some one of their whole list of tools that and not their main product. So those were kind of some of the things that led us to select them as the tool to help us generate the RTL for the registers.
So it's really the automation process that adds the value, the fact that you don't have to hand code the registers, RTL,
Exactly.
the models.
Yeah.
I mean, we have right now, the company's still pretty small, very small teams, trying to get a lot of design work done. So we're looking for ways to try to make to implement the code in ways where it's easy to maintain and reduces risk from the verification standpoint. Just anything we can do to basically reduce the overall effort.
Now, does your register specification change, evolve over the course of the project? So do you then regenerate the models and the RTL for the registers?
Yeah, yeah, of course, like any development project where we're doing stuff from scratch, it undergoes many changes over the course of the project. And that's another reason why we want to have, a tool that can generate the RTL for us. We just want to make a few, add a field to a register, add a register here and there, and then quickly get the RTL and not be concerned that we're going to end up debugging some coding error, updating the RTL ourselves. So
that is something that I hear frequently in an automated process. Obviously it saves time and effort because you're not handwriting code, but also if you're designing at a higher level of abstraction for the register specification, you're less likely to have errors introduced in the design because you're not hand coding all the details. So from a verification point, Teja, would you say that you're actually dealing with a much cleaner design when you get the register RTL in hand and verify that as part of the overall design?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first time that I had used, this is the first time that I had used any of the Agnisys tools, and it was pretty straightforward. The documentation, the support that they had, and even the register set that it created. The past projects that I worked on, again, we had our own in-house tools that generated, right? And you always had some situations where probably even the basic access were not going through, maybe simple reads or writes, maybe the bus protocol was off. But that was not the case in here, right? It was pretty straightforward to probably just do basic reads of, let's say, the most simplest reads of default values. Right? You have all of these already proven, they have been using this tool for a while. So most of the initial, time that you actually spend fixing the most basic bugs, it was not even in the picture. So we mostly were concentrating on, how do we, let's say, update the registers if those was happening correctly based on our design. So mostly it was, verifying our parts of the design, looking at the registers, whatever are the status that was being reflected by the registers. The logic itself of the registers, that was all in place. So that really saved a lot of time, compared with, having our own tool, let's say. So that was very helpful, definitely. And it helps because, like Gary mentioned, we are a very small team, right? So we have very limited resources and time is really critical. So that really helps us, in using their tool.
And how has it been working with the folks at Agnisys in terms of support, answering questions, responding to any
It's been
issues?
good. Definitely. For me, it has been pretty, I would say I'm pretty happy with the effort. In fact, just yesterday also, we had one meeting pretty late in the night, our time. So it always helps because they're pretty quick and they do have a team overseas. So you always have people over here in the morning if you want to, answer any of the questions that you have. Or they're pretty quick to have their overseas team who actually are going to answer, let's say, late in the night. So that way it has been pretty smooth, I would say. And also the documentation that they have, right? If not for the support, even the documentation that they have on their website, that's pretty elaborate. So most of the answers are, you should be finding it over there. And of course, there are always unique cases that are, for, let's say, for our company, right? Our flows. So, and they really did help so far to understand what our flows are and how to, let's say, tweak or come up with workarounds. So it's been good, I would say.
It's very good to hear.
Yeah,
So,
I was like to say my experience has been also very good. We have seen very few issues with the tool, so we hadn't, really need much support, but did file a couple of issues and got good turnaround on the responses. So we're pleased with that.
great, I'm very glad to hear that. And let's wrap up by looking to the future. What the new challenges you expect to see as you move forward with current and future projects, and it's particular for registers, but also just in general areas where a company like Agnisys might be able to help tackle some of your anticipated problems.
Yeah, I think we will continue to use iDesign Spec on on the next projects and things. I know we're looking at some of the new tools and other features that Agnisys is adding to their tool suite. I know Tejas is currently evaluating this ARV option. He can talk about that.
So yes, currently we are evaluating the ARV tool that they have, and we've found it to be pretty useful, for our, basically it creates a whole suite of register tests. So we did discuss on, whether we want to have our own in-house tool, and again, like Gary mentioned, it was not practical for, for different reasons. And we are currently evaluating that tool where it generates a bunch of registers tests. So we have been able to run that, and that's where we have been going a bit back and forward, but the support has been pretty good so far. And I think we'll go ahead and probably are going to use this tool because it really helps us, because as we keep going higher and higher, you have a large set of registers. And the one good thing about the tool that we discussed with Agnisys was the reusability when it comes to verification. You can reuse these tests that are written at, let's say, a block level as you keep going higher to the cluster level. So we really want to do that, right? All the tests that we are able to run at the block level as we keep going higher levels. So I think so far with iDesign Spec, we have, of course, been having pretty good results so far. And I think even ARVB tool, I see a lot of value when it comes to verification there.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time. Maybe we'll have a chance to talk again at some point and hear about your experiences when you've had some more experience with ARV as well. Again, thanks for your time, and I'll turn it back to Nina.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom, Gary, and Teja for taking out time to talk on iDesign Spec experience. Talk to you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nina.